Good morning, everyone. This is your average Jen coming at you from my room. Oh, I got like a weird shadow on there. There, that's a little bit better. Today's episode right now is going to be about harm reduction, and I actually snagged some audio clips from my friend from Recovery Diaries, Jess, because she did something on harm reduction, and then I snagged part of an interview from um, Lindsay and Guy Vellicella, but I'll have all that in the show notes so you can check it out yourself. So let's get to it because this is something that um it's not necessarily. I don't know what to say. I've been listening to stuff on it and it makes sense to me, but it's not such, I guess, my area of expertise. So I'll leave it up to those people to like talk about it and advocate for it, but I will help share their message. So let's get to, sorry, I have obnoxious cats this morning. All right, so let's get to the episode and see what all these people have to say about it.
Can share it. Comments also help other struggling people
Let's do
find.
it at the beginning. That might be helpful.
Hi there, and welcome to I'm Only Human, a podcast that attempts to explain how to coexist with other humans. This podcast is going to dive into topics like: is it possible to overcome human nature? Are rules and laws necessary for taming bad behaviors, or are they simply a control mechanism crafted by other disturbed minds? Why do we fight with each other? How does traditional religion impact us? Can social disease be healed through individual recovery? My name is Jen, and I'm an average human. Before I begin, I would like to state that I will be talking about controversial things such as, but not limited to, religion, God, the Bible, 12-step programs, and politics. I am not an expert, and I don't claim to be one. I will, however, be referencing Alcoholics Anonymous because it is the granddaddy of all other 12-step programs. I will also be quoting things from the Bible and mentioning God along with different religions. I'm not trying to promote a particular program, nor am I trying to convert anyone. I believe religion gives us a foundation, and 12-step recovery guides people down a path to self-actualization. Through recovery, healing is possible. I believe that changed minds and attitudes can change our world. Hello, everyone. Actually, today I stole something from another podcast or YouTube person, and it got me thinking. So I did an episode kind of going off of their content. This is going to be about harm reduction. And I think it was a month ago, Jess from Recovery Diaries had gone out and she was on a mission to find out more about safe consumption sites. She had a problem with them because they didn't offer treatment. Well, Jess, here in Vancouver, or I should say, they're in Vancouver, they do it better than we do. Before I get to that, I want to replay the moment you had your change of mind. I'll give my thoughts at the end of this.
How do you respond to the critics that argue that harm reduction programs may enable or normalize drug use rather than address the root cause of addiction?
Really just like pulling data, like numbers speak for themselves. So CDC data, any data that shows that harm reduction programs are helpful, that medication assisted treatment is helpful. I think like for me, I don't tell a lot of people that I stopped using opiates, but like I am an example of that. So if I have to pull that card, I will.
Because I am one of those critics. Okay, I get it, and then it just comes to a point like we too old to be getting high nowadays. Like, you know what I mean? And it kind of makes me so mad that You know, I'm 43 now, almost 4 years and 3 months clean this month. And when I see the same people that I was getting high with out there still getting high, it makes me upset. And then people are like, well, meet them. You got to meet them where they are in their recovery. Well, how is that working for them, meeting them where they are? Because for me, passing out clean needles, I feel is enabling my community. This is my opinion, though. Like I said, I'm not here to start trouble or anything like that, but this is how I feel, and that's why I'm here today. And I appreciate you getting on here and explaining, more, educating me a little bit more, and then my people and stuff like that. How do you handle the cases where harm reduction interventions might be perceived? I guess we kind of went over this as enabling, rather supporting the individuals in their journey towards recovery. Like, why can't we press more treatment rather than pressing out more needles? You know what I mean?
I think I feel like you probably empathize with people who will make changes in their life when they want to. So I don't think that it's anything that like society or our justice system can enforce. People will find a way to do what they want to do. I also think that we need to address how hard it is to thrive and function in society, and why a lot of us have addictive or self-harming behaviors, and how we can better support our society's mental health. And I don't feel like it's enabling people to, just because this exists, I don't think anyone sees that we exist and starts using IV drugs because they know we exist. I think it's just giving people autonomy over their bodies and making sure that they're able to make the choices that they make in the healthiest way possible. So it would be like if car manufacturers said we're going to make cars without seatbelts. Like, that could be deadly. So we know that there are drugs here and there will always be drugs here. So just making sure these resources are available so people are able to stay healthy, and regardless of if they spend the rest of their lives using drugs, that's fine. I just want them to be as healthy as possible.
You know what? That's it right there. I never really thought about it like that. Like you said, if someone gets high for the rest of their life, at least they know that these services are there. I may not agree with everything here, but you kind of just you just did it. You gave me that light bulb, like, damn, if a car doesn't have a seatbelt, you could die.
Right.
If an addict doesn't have these resources, they could
I don't want
potentially
someone,
die.
I want them to live a happy life and not have extra pain and suffering.
Now that we've heard from Jess, I want to share part of a live stream. Please click on the link in the show notes for the full live stream episode on YouTube. I'd like to introduce my fans to Lindsay. We don't know each other in real life. Lindsay is an addiction and recovery counselor. I discovered her on X about 4 months ago, shortly after I joined the platform. She's got a YouTube channel that talks about all things recovery. I don't like to quote unquote take on too many people at one time. I was getting acquainted with Scott, the sober heathen, who will one day be known as the silver heathen. It's hard enough keeping up with my own life. I had some time to listen to some more of her content and felt like this was important to share. I'll turn it over to Lindsay and Guy Velacella. I hope I said that right, and come back with my thoughts after they speak.
It's live. Hey guys, Lindsay here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel on all things addiction and recovery. And I have a really special guest today that I have been just screaming about all over social media for the past week. I'm really excited. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and give you a little background because he will do a way better job at telling you who he is than I will. So without further ado, Guy Felicella. Hello. Who are you?
Hey, Lindsay. I'm good. Yeah, my name is Guy Felicelli, and I'm a former drug user who had to be brought back to life 6 times. And I'm from Vancouver, Canada. And, obviously struggled for many years. Grew up with undiagnosed learning disabilities, ADHD, was later on in life discovered. Struggled at the home life. There was some dysfunctionality in the household and led to my own anxiety, depression, self-hatred. In school, I was called hyper difficult and hard to manage. And, my life was always one of these things as a young kid where I was looking for ways to distract myself, how I felt about myself. And so, early on, before drugs even hit, I would play sports, which I was really good at. And I lacked coping mechanisms. And so when I play sports, I was validated. I wasn't the best player or anything like that, but I was always compared to a person that plays with a lot of heart and a lot of grit. And maybe that was the nature of my life because I was just born a fighter and had to struggle through so many things. But drugs became a part of my life at 12 years old, started running away from home and joined some gangs, and just my life just really started to take shape. And at 12 years old, as a young kid, wanting to end my life. The interesting thing about the substances is that they saved my life. But when you're 12 years old, you can't realize that those drugs that saved your life from how you were feeling were going to one day turn into or progress into the drugs that were going to try to end your life. And for me, the struggle just became so real, and I just spiraled out of control for decades.
Wow. So 12 years old, what did you start with?
First drug I ever started with at the same time was really LSD, and cannabis was the first. Yeah, that was made me feel the LSD just made me feel like it gave me a sense of freedom inside, and it didn't matter really what anybody else was going to say. It didn't matter about verbal abuse or the trauma that I was dealing with, physical abuse. I couldn't care less anymore, and so that quickly progressed to cocaine and heroin.
Yeah, it's quick, isn't it?
Very quick. Yeah. I think what happens I was always seeking to numb myself. And I can remember the first time I tried cocaine, I was a young kid and I snorted it. And I seriously thought I was going to die because my throat went numb, my face went numb.
Oh,
and you're kind of running around as a kid because you don't know what to expect. And it was panicky. And, once that feeling subsided, the euphoria that I got from it was just, then it was, okay, this is incredible. And that's the problem with the drugs.
That is definitely the problem.
Good.
Oh man. Yeah, because it's like, well, I was, I guess, a late bloomer, but high school freshman year, I guess I was probably like 16, right? 15, 16. That was the first time I drank, and I got in trouble the first time, but I just remember when that euphoria hit and I was like, damn, that's what this is about. And I'm like, I literally was like, I found it and I don't care. Like, and I got in trouble and it didn't even, whatever, it didn't matter. So I was like, this is it. Like, I felt like I belonged, and that was it. That was it. And there it goes. Once I feel like I belong and all that, it's over. So you are big into harm reduction, right? And I want to know more about like pretend I don't know anything about harm reduction. For anybody that's watching, will you explain basically like what it is even?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really a concept and a practice used to support people who are using substances, knowing that they are already using these substances. And so trying to reduce the harms caused by those substances, bloodborne infections, HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, bacteria infection. So harm reduction reduces those harms, knowing that people, regardless, are going to continue to use these substances without it. And,
right.
One of the things that happened in Vancouver was actually really where the start of harm reduction implemented in Canada in the 90s. So it was the early 90s where back then you couldn't access a syringe. You would use somebody's syringe, and we had the HIV AIDS crisis where 1 in 4 had contracted HIV AIDS in that area.
Wow.
Just the amount of disease and health complications caused without having the proper education as being a substance user. I had no idea that sharing somebody's syringe would impact my health. And the health authorities weren't telling us anything. And so basically, as substance users, this is what happens, is that if people aren't going to support them, then substance users are going to have to do the research to support themselves. And basically, it was just really a bunch of people getting together to support each other and give them the proper tools. And it just started to progress from there. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where I look back fondly, because grateful I don't have HIV, but I could have easily had it. And then, it really impacts your life further on down the road later if you do find recovery and, you have other health complications that are added onto it. I mean, it's such a thing that's misrepresented a lot through people who are believe or blame harm reduction for the cause of things. Listen, what you can blame in North America is that the toxic drug supply is poison and it's killing people, and you can start there. And in not having a supervised consumption site where people can go use those substances, you don't even build connections with people in back alleys. These facilities, at least there's a place for them to go. In the supervised consumption site in Vancouver, on the second floor, they have a detox floor. So what better place to go on the first floor if you're using your drugs and then you want to stop? They have a detox upstairs where they can take you, and then they can send you to the transition floor and then to treatment and recovery. And you just keep trying because, so this is the thing. It like builds relationships with people who are using substances, because you tell me if you're building a relationship with somebody that's locked in their bathroom by themselves.
No. And then they're going to die by themselves usually if they overdose, which is a big chance that they're going to nowadays, especially. So the tainted drug supply, I saw one of your TED Talks talked about the safe drug supply. What exactly is that?
Well, I mean, we already know what people are consuming is killing them, right? And really, it's the concentration of the drugs that's on the street put out by organized crime. I mean, you just can't gauge the concentration levels. And so it looks the same as you used to use, and then you just don't know the potency. And then one day you just never wake up. Now, safer supply, what that means is an alternative outside of that drug supply, meaning, basically I would call it as simply as saying it's medication to try to remove people as much as possible from that illicit, unregulated drug market that's killing people.
Okay.
Gotcha. And then the concept is really trying to sever the ties with using the substances that are poison, to just use these right now. So, on the bottle, it's like if you go to a pharmacy and it says, take 2, Lindsay, take 2. But if you take 4, you're going to overdose. Then at least you have the empowerment to know what to consume. Oh, well, it says don't take 4, take 2. So in that sense, that's the similarity of what safer supply would mean.
That makes sense. I mean, see, I'm in Florida, as you know. Like a lot of this stuff in the US, I think it's only come into a few states, like across the US. Like safe injection sites are something that I just heard about recently. And come to find out, it's been something talked about for a while now. And I instantly was like, no, like very staunch about it and not even thinking about it though. And I think that's kind of the problem, is that people are just hearing someone else talk about it and they're like, no, this is bad. And what you just said, people are saying like, this is the cause of it. Or what do they say? Like enabling, this is allowing it. But you said something in your TED Talk and I laughed, but it's so true. You said, I don't think an older couple or something is sitting, what did you say, at the kitchen table deciding to do heroin?
Yeah, if the supervised consumption site opened up in your area, you can't see somebody sitting at the breakfast table and saying, hey, they've just opened up an injection site where we can go use heroin. Let's grab a bag and go there and use it. It doesn't work like that. It's like, but people actually think it's like we're going to encourage people to use drugs. No. We are going to encourage people who are already using drugs to use them safer and to come into this facility, because the risk it's like Russian roulette out there right now. Like, this is it. The bullet chamber's full though. Like, it's just a matter of time for people who use these substances that they're going to die. And I tell you, all the harm reduction advocates that I've ever met were always giving me the option and letting me know or helping me get into detox when I wanted to go. I was always that guy, the guy that was always going to detox. People used to say to me, why do you keep going to detox when you keep leaving? And I kept saying, I just got to keep trying because my life sucks. But I don't know why I can't stop. And I've always described my life as that I was really good at getting sober. I was never good at staying sober. I just couldn't stay sober consistently for longer than a couple weeks here and there. I think the longest time way back in the day, I remember making it to 3 months and thinking, man, like I've not used drugs in 90 days. And then I go back out. And, sometimes you just wake up on autopilot and you don't know why you do the things that you do. What I discovered in my own life was learning about when I discovered the underlying issues of why I used the drugs, not the drugs themselves, really kind of changed everything for me.
Talk more about that, please. Explain what you mean, because I agree.
Yeah, so I've always said that somebody has put the right people or the right opportunity in front of me all the time throughout my life. Maybe somebody to be like the guiding light to kind of give me the information or the puzzle of who Guy is or what makes Guy do the things he does. Mm-hmm. Because I was just destined to think to myself, my best thing is that I'm going to be a drug user for the rest of my life until I die. That was the best thing that I had, because I didn't know why. Why do I wake up and just leave and go get high? Yeah. And I'm doing good. Why did I do it? And so in the downtown east side, I had a great doctor. I've had many great doctors, but this one in particular, Gabor Mate, was instrumental in seeing me in a moment in detox. And he said, can I ask you a question, Guy? And I said, yeah, sure. And he just said, are you enjoying your life? And I said, no, I just think this is the lot that was given. Ooh. And he just said, I don't think your problem is the drugs. And I just remember saying, but everybody says it's the drugs. Get off the drugs and I don't feel better. Sure, things get better in my life. I may have a bed, I have some food, but how I feel about myself doesn't get better. And he said, I believe there's a reason why you use them the way you do. And that kind of just dropped a bomb in my life. And when he said, tell me about your childhood, I just remember the tears streaming down my face immediately, that this small, and he's not a big man, he's a very small statured man with a very calming voice.
Yeah.
And he just saw through the tough exterior of a person and saw the person inside that's just really dying. And when you survive so long on the street, I survived decades on the street. Wow. And when you survive that long being homeless and on the street, known as the tough guy, you portray that. You almost develop a new character. And he saw past all that, the tattoos, the tough exterior, the glaring stare. Yeah. He just, when he said those words about my childhood, I couldn't even talk, and we didn't talk. He just said, don't worry, we're going to figure it out. And then sure enough, I was diagnosed with ADHD a short time later. And I remember just sharing that, I've always felt stupid my whole life. Mm. It was a big shame of mine that I carried. Wow. Because I was often compared in school, like, why can't you learn like everybody else? What's wrong with you? I always heard those words, like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, man, I don't know what is wrong with me. And you start to believe the negative projection onto you as a person, especially as a young kid. I just believed what people said for so long about me that, you just develop this thing. You want to see the bad guy? Well, here's the bad guy. I'll be the bad guy. And that was kind of the changing moment, putting the puzzles together. That Guy struggled with trauma. Guy struggled with undiagnosed learning disabilities. And those are the reasons why Guy uses drugs like a madman. And so that gave me the ability to, and not immediately, but to start working on some things to achieve long-term recovery. People knew me as Tony my whole life and people always ask me that people still call me Tony today. But even when I'm taking people to see site visits in the downtown east side and people are like, hey, Tony, how you doing? And oh man, it's good to see you. And people look at me like, who's Tony? And I'm like, well, that was my name. I'm like, that was my name. But why do they keep calling you Tony? And I said, well, because it was for a long time, it was just too painful to be Guy. So I picked somebody else to be.
Yeah, I mean, no, that makes perfect sense. I just totally related to what you said about the identity thing. It's like I was going to be the best damn drug addict, whatever, right? And the best crazy girl, whatever. And I was going to embrace that, even though I wasn't like that. I grew up in like a nice town, and my parents didn't abuse me and stuff. And then I couldn't stop using, and I didn't know why I was continuing to do so, kind of like we were just saying. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to embrace this because I can't stop. And maybe this is what I'm supposed to be. I don't know. It's a whole new identity, and you just embrace it. But that's interesting that you took on the name and everything, and it just makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, it's almost too, as people, us, like, I mean, I understood how to survive now, right?
Yeah.
You put me in an environment on the street, this guy knows how to survive it. But it also at the same time, it's killing you.
Yeah.
But you become somewhat comfortable in the sickness. It's familiar. I know how it goes good. I know how it goes bad, and I know how to get through it all. Good, bad, ugly. This is my day, what it's going to look like, or how it's going to start, or how it's going to end. I can get through that. What we don't know is when we leave that, what's our life going to look like outside of that? And that is a big fear thing to look at, because it's like something like we almost like hold on to this sickness for so long where it's like, no, I can't let it. It's my precious. Like, you're not taking this away from me. No. And it takes the ability to remove yourself willingly, like to remove yourself out of that environment, to see that, oh, wait, maybe there is something different for me. But if you don't understand why you do the things you do, you'll just keep rolling in and doing them.
Right. Wow. So what finally, I don't want to say clicked, but I guess maybe it could be described as that. Did something click the last time that you picked up and put it down?
February 18th, 2013. So just literally like a few weeks away. I was brought back to life. I lay motionless on the floor in the supervised consumption site, dead, and a nurse working on top of me. I don't remember. People always ask, did you ever remember dying? No, so fast. I just remember waking up. But when I woke up, this is my 6th overdose in like the last 9-10 months, in 2012 and 2013. And that particular overdose, and I'd never overdosed in my life up until then. And I used drugs for decades, heroin, cocaine. The drug supply started to get increasingly toxic. Now it's 10 times worse. But when I woke up and I looked to the left of me, the nurse was crying. And I said to her, why are you crying? And her response to me was, because I care.
I think that having the treatment center right above these safe consumption sites is a great idea. Too bad there wasn't a way for people to be generous enough to make it happen so insurance would not be necessary in obtaining help. Our healthcare system is so messed up. People wait for years in horrible pain because they can't afford to get help. Tangent alert. Tangent alert. Our healthcare system sucks. Here we go. I have insurance, and I still put off going to the doctor. I recently had an MRI scan that showed some torn stuff in my knee. No surgery is needed, thank goodness, but I still had to pay damn near $4,000 for that one visit. It will take me 8 months to pay off that one bill. But wait, there's more. I'll be receiving more bills because I had to schedule a follow-up appointment. I haven't gotten the bill for that yet. I can't wait. How is this helpful to anyone? I don't know. I don't know if rich folks feel the sting of healthcare or understand what it feels like to wait in horrible pain for necessary medical or dental treatment. Sometimes us average folks wait for years before they are, quote unquote, allowed to get necessary medical, dental, and mental health care. People need help when they need help. The window with an addict is so small that you must get them when they decide enough is enough. Guy said it best when he said that you can't make connections to people in a back alley. The drug dealer is not your friend. Safe consumption sites are a way to get people in the door and find a place where they are not judged for what they are doing. I'm near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We have a needle exchange program, but I don't know much more about it. Please visit the Recovery Diaries video in the show notes to find out more about what Milwaukee offers. Okay, tangent over. Back to final thoughts. It would be great if money didn't matter and people helped others because it was the right thing to do instead of helping people for their material profit. Safe medications, I think this is similar to nicotine patches in a way because it becomes a more regulated dose, and usually people try to use those things as a means to slow down or quit smoking. The difference between the two is there's a bigger stigma surrounding street drugs, for lack of a better term. The thought doesn't sit well with me either, but the more I think about the idea rather than dismiss it, the more it makes sense. I'm sure addicts already feel bad enough. Looking down on these people is not the way to get those individuals the help they need. They don't have anybody in the world by the time they are homeless. Sometimes all it takes is knowing there are people there that do care about you and are willing to find you some assistance, whether that is a clean needle or an ear to listen or just a place to get off the street and be near other people can make all the difference for the choice of recovery. In closing, I would like to say that the opinions expressed here were strictly of my own making, or by my guests. Take what you like and leave the rest. You may come to realize that you may not like me or what I want to share. Let's talk to each other, reason things out, but let there be no gossip or criticism of one another. Instead, let the fellowship of ethical human behavior and the serenity from positive human interaction help you grow and chill out, one experience at a time. I would like to thank my higher power for guiding me through this podcast. I hope to spread the message of love, hope, and understanding by touching one life at a time. If you like this podcast, please like and share it. Comments also help other struggling people find it. I am now listener supported, and if you would like to contribute, please feel free. There is no obligation. If you would like to share feedback, you can email me at averagehumanbeing1875@gmail.com. There is also a link you can click if you'd like to send a voice message and add to the content of the show.
Okay, well, there you have it. I thought that that was very informative. Like, I never really gave any of that a second thought or consideration because that's not part of my world. But even though it's not part of my world, doesn't mean that I can't care and doesn't mean that I can't think about it and things like that and find ways to help people. So, my way of helping people is by spreading the message that these people shared, and hopefully it finds the ears of somebody or a bunch of people who can do something to help. Oh, and another update, I eventually am going to need to have surgery on my knee, so yay. Until then, I'll just keep getting shots in there because that's much more affordable. Okay, everyone, have a great day. See you again. Bye-bye.